The moment you truly believe that your life is already held in divine hands, you will cease to struggle. You will no longer chase after the security of the world, for you will realize that all things spring forth from the imagination, and that God, the indwelling power within you, has already made provision for everything you need. What you call faith is not a blind hope, but a deep knowing, an inner conviction that the unseen is more real than the seen. To trust God is to walk as though the outcome is already assured. It is not to beg, plead, or cry out into the void. It is to rest in the stillness of being and know that what you feel is true within will become flesh in your world. When you shift your attention from fear to faith, from the external noise to the inner silence, you allow the divine blueprint to unfold effortlessly in your life. This is not a message of religious ritual or outward piety. It is an awakening to the truth that the source of your life, your supply, your healing, your safety, your joy, is within you. You are not here to make things happen through force, but to align with the one who has already finished the work. Trusting God is not about waiting for a miracle. It is the realization that the miracle is already present, waiting for you to see it. So now, let us step beyond doubt. Let us explore the deep inner territory where trust is not a concept but a living, breathing awareness, and where God is not distant but the very substance of your being. The power of inner conviction is not something that is taught through external instruction but discovered in the quiet sanctuary of one's own consciousness. It is the quiet knowing that defies logic, precedent, or appearance. It's the sacred ground within where belief becomes reality, not because of what is seen with the eyes, but because of what is felt as absolutely true in the heart. To walk in inner conviction is to live from the awareness that the world is not something happening to you, but something emanating from you. The conviction within your heart, the assurance, the certainty, the feeling of I am, is the only true foundation upon which your world rests. You do not need to ask for proof when you live from conviction, because the proof is already alive within you. This inner state is not generated by force. It cannot be faked or fabricated through mere positive thinking or surface-level declarations. It emerges when a soul has become still enough to hear the voice of truth echo within. Conviction is a feeling of completion. It's not a request for what you want to see. It's a declaration of what already is. The moment you inwardly accept something as true, regardless of outer appearances, you set in motion unseen forces that begin aligning everything around you to mirror that internal truth. Life begins to organize itself around your inner state. Events begin to shift. People begin to appear. And circumstances begin to respond as though they are answering a silent command, because they are. Every great transformation, every healing, every breakthrough does not begin with what is done, but with what is believed. When you believe from the core of your being, without reservation, you do not just hope that something good might happen. You live as if it already has. That is the mysterious yet undeniable power of inner conviction. It reshapes the landscape of your experience without resistance, because it no longer needs permission from the world to be true. It already is. And what is assumed to be real inwardly must eventually take shape outwardly. The world, though it seems fixed and absolute, is incredibly malleable to the hands of a soul grounded in conviction. Most people wait for something to happen before they believe. They wait for the report to change, the finances to increase, the door to open. But when you are ruled by conviction, you reverse the process. You do not wait for the world to give you a reason to believe. You give the world your belief and it shapes itself accordingly. You claim healing before the body agrees. You walk in abundance before the bank reflects it. You smile in peace before the conflict is resolved. This is not delusion. It is spiritual mastery. It is choosing to live from the unseen rather than be bound by what is temporarily visible. There is a sacred difference between hoping and knowing. Hope still leaves room for doubt, but conviction eliminates the need for alternatives. It seals the heart and says, this is true, and there is no other way it can be. That level of resolve is what draws divine favor and heavenly alignment. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. And the universe always cooperates with what is deeply, genuinely felt. The reason why many prayers go unanswered is not because God does not care or respond, but because the person praying does not yet believe it to be real. The lips speak one thing, but the heart trembles in uncertainty. Yet when heart and word and imagination become one, there is no force that can deny what is spoken in that place. Children understand this effortlessly. When they imagine, they enter the state entirely. There is no separation between the imagined and the experienced. To them it is real. That same quality of immersion is what the soul must return to in order to walk in spiritual power. When your conviction is pure and unshaken, when you no longer look for signs but become the sign, the world has no choice but to reflect your inner stance. Because reality at its core is not made of material. It is made of perception, awareness, assumption. Inner conviction is the birthplace of miracles. It is where the finite mind meets the infinite will. And once that union happens, what flows through you is no longer of this world. You speak, act, and move from a place that is not bound by time, fear, or history. You are carried, directed, sustained by something higher, and the results that come forth cannot be explained by natural law alone. They are the fruits of unseen trust and quiet dominion. To walk in this truth daily is to become untouchable by doubt, unshaken by delay. Delay no longer means denial. Time no longer becomes a barrier, because conviction does not require proof, it creates it. You simply hold to what you know within, not as a wish or a desire, but as a living reality. That inner knowing will do what no outer effort can accomplish. It will go where hands cannot go. It will speak where your voice cannot be heard. It will prepare paths, dissolve obstacles, soften hearts, and call into existence everything needed for your purpose to be fulfilled. Resting in divine assurance is not the absence of action, but the presence of deep inner stillness. It is the quiet confidence that all things are unfolding exactly as they should, even when the path ahead is unclear. This rest does not come from external circumstances being perfect. It emerges from a heart that knows it is already held, already protected, already provided for. Divine assurance is not a fleeting emotion that rises and falls with each new piece of news or each changing condition. It is a fixed knowing that the one who formed you has already written every chapter of your life with care, wisdom, and purpose. It is the complete surrender of the need to control outcomes because you finally realize that the highest intelligence in existence is already orchestrating your life with precision and love. When you truly rest in that assurance, anxiety loses its grip. The need to manipulate, to force, to rush disappears. You begin to flow with life rather than fight against it. Resting does not mean inaction, it means inspired action. Action that is born not out of fear or panic, but out of peace and clarity. It is the kind of rest that allows you to be fully present, because your mind is no longer chasing tomorrow or haunted by yesterday. You no longer wrestle with outcomes because you trust the source. You no longer beg for provision because you know that the one who gave you the vision has already provided the means to fulfill it. This level of trust is not built overnight. It is forged in the fires of delay, uncertainty, and silence. It is developed when everything around you seems to contradict what you've been promised, and yet you continue to believe. It's in those moments that your soul learns to lean, not on the seen but on the unseen. To rest in divine assurance is to stop interpreting life based on what your eyes can see, and start interpreting it through the lens of divine truth. It is believing that even what looks like a detour is still part of the plan. Even what feels like a loss is being used for gain. Even what seems to be withheld is really being prepared in a way you cannot yet perceive. In this place of rest, fear has no voice. The noise of the world fades and the whisper of God becomes clearer. You begin to hear the subtle nudges of your spirit. You start noticing the confirmations, the alignments, the timely encounters that were always there, waiting for your eyes to open. You stop reacting to life and start responding from a place of peace. This divine rest becomes a foundation beneath your feet. You walk slower but more surely. You speak less but more powerfully. You move with grace because you are no longer rushing towards something, you are moving from something that is already true within. This inner rest is not complacency, it is spiritual strength. It is the ability to say, I don't see it yet, but I know it's already done. You do not let the delay shake you, because you understand that divine timing is not late. You don't allow people's opinions to sway you, because you are anchored in a deeper truth. You can celebrate even in the waiting, because you know the end from the beginning in your spirit. That assurance becomes your atmosphere. It becomes the posture of your soul. It's no longer about hoping things will work out. It's about knowing they already have, and you're simply catching up with what's already been decreed. Many people live with a restless soul. They are constantly searching, striving, worrying, doubting. But the soul that rests in God is no longer restless. It does not fight for peace because it is peace. It does not search for safety because it is safe. It does not strive for love because it is loved. That kind of rest cannot be given by the world, and it cannot be taken by the world. It is a supernatural peace that surpasses understanding. And once it is found, it becomes your home, a resting place you return to no matter what is happening around you. In that rest, you begin to realize that you are not alone, not abandoned, not forgotten. You are not at the mercy of chance or fate. You are being carried, you are being led, you are being kept. And even when you don't understand the process, you trust the one who designed it. You no longer panic when doors close, because you know that divine rest allows room for better doors to open. You stop chasing people, opportunities, and outcomes, because what belongs to you will not pass you by. You stop exhausting yourself trying to make everything happen, because you understand that what is destined for you cannot be missed. It will find you at the appointed time, in the appointed place. Resting in divine assurance teaches you how to breathe again. It teaches you how to stand still and watch the unfolding. It teaches you to smile without needing a reason, to believe without needing a sign, to wait without growing weary. You become someone who walks through storms without being shaken, who sits in silence without growing anxious, who stands in uncertainty without losing faith. This rest becomes your power. It becomes the signal to heaven that you trust the process, that you trust the provider more than the provision, that you trust the unseen hand more than the visible path. Faith as alignment, not effort, changes the entire way one approaches life and the promises of God. It shifts the focus from trying to make something happen to becoming something that allows what is already true to manifest. Most people associate faith with intense striving, with repeating declarations, working tirelessly, or showing some form of external action to prove they believe. But true faith is not about trying harder. It is about aligning the heart, mind, and soul with what is already done in the spiritual realm. It is the alignment of identity with divine truth, where you no longer see yourself as someone reaching for a blessing, but as someone already in possession of it, because you've aligned with the frequency of that reality. This alignment is quiet, but powerful. It does not scream for attention or desperately grasp at outcomes. It listens, it yields, it rests. To align means to come into agreement, to become one with what God has spoken. It is not simply believing with words, but embodying the belief with every part of your being. When your thoughts agree with your words and your imagination supports your declarations, then you are in alignment. That is when faith becomes real power. It is not forced, it flows. It does not fight with doubt or try to overcome fear by sheer will. It dissolves fear because fear cannot coexist with true spiritual agreement. This is why many people who are sincerely trying to have faith still feel stuck. They are working so hard to believe, but they are not aligned. Their outer words may speak faith, but their inner conversation remains rooted in lack, fear, or doubt. Their imagination is still filled with pictures of failure or delay. Their feelings contradict their affirmations. So even though effort is present, alignment is missing. And without alignment, faith remains a concept rather than a creative force. True faith does not require pressure. It requires surrender. The kind of surrender that allows your heart to open and say, "Let it be to me as it is already spoken." Alignment is the inner posture of already having. It is not waiting for something to appear to feel peace. It is feeling peace now because you are aligned with the truth that it is already yours. It is no longer praying from a place of emptiness, but thanking from a place of fullness. When you are aligned, even your actions are different. You no longer move out of fear of what might go wrong. You move in confidence, knowing all is well. You don't seek to prove anything. You simply are what you believe. That is the highest form of faith, becoming the thing you desire to see. When your identity begins to shift in response to your inner agreement with divine truth, everything else begins to shift with it. You stop identifying as someone waiting for healing and begin to identify as the healed. You stop identifying as someone praying for provision and begin to live as one who is provided for. This identity shift is not about pretending, it is about aligning your internal world with a higher truth than the evidence around you. And once this shift occurs, circumstances begin to yield. They respond not to your desperation, but to your alignment. Because the spiritual realm is governed not by need, but by order. It obeys design, not demand. This is the mystery of effortless faith, that by becoming still and clear within, by coming into full agreement with what God has already declared, you cause more to happen than all your striving ever could. You stop running toward the promise and begin standing in it. You stop asking and start receiving. And this receiving is not an act of labor, but of resonance. You resonate with health, with abundance, with love, with peace, and so these things begin to find you. You have magnetized your world by aligning your essence with your expectation. You no longer pull life toward you. You welcome what is already being sent your way. This alignment also protects you. It guards your mind against the temptation to waver when things don't appear immediately. It keeps you from collapsing under discouragement because your belief isn't based on outer confirmation. You can walk through contradiction and not be shaken because your compass is set internally. The moment you feel yourself slipping out of alignment, reacting in fear, speaking in doubt, seeing yourself as less than what God has called you, you return, not through effort, but through awareness. You realign by remembering. You pause, breathe, and return to the truth that all things are already yours in spirit, and that your only job is to agree with that truth so fully that it becomes flesh. Faith is not hard when alignment is present. It becomes like breathing. It becomes like a melody that your soul recognizes and sings along with. It no longer feels like a battle, but like a dance. You are not pushing against something, you are moving with something. And that movement becomes your power. Your prayers carry more weight. Your silence speaks louder than noise. Your decisions are sharper, clearer, less frantic, because you know who you are and you know whose you are. And from that knowing, everything flows. Faith is not the pressure to believe hard enough for something to happen. It is the peace of knowing that everything has already happened in the invisible, and that by aligning yourself with that reality, you make it visible. God as the indwelling source is the most liberating truth a person can awaken to. It ends the exhausting search for power outside yourself and returns your attention to where the true creative force has always been within. When you come to understand that God is not distant, not watching from the clouds, not an external being to be chased or appeased, but the very life, breath, and intelligence flowing through you, everything changes. You stop living as someone separate from divinity, and you begin to live as someone animated by it. God is not far away deciding whether to bless you or not. God is the source of your thoughts, the silence behind your words, the vision behind your eyes, the heartbeat behind your dreams. To recognize God as the indwelling source means you no longer beg for what you already carry. You no longer approach life as a powerless being needing rescue, but as a vessel of infinite wisdom, strength, and creativity. You do not collapse under circumstances because you know the source of all solutions is alive in you. You don't wait for heaven to intervene because you realize heaven is already rooted in your being, waiting to express itself through your consciousness. This recognition is not about arrogance. It is about alignment with truth. It is the humility of knowing that the light you shine is not your own, but the light of God shining through you. This divine presence within is not limited by time, space, or material law. It is not diminished by your past or your present struggles. It is constant, unchanging, eternal. And once you become aware of it, you begin to relate to life differently. You stop depending on other people to validate you, because you know the Creator of all things has already placed value inside you. You stop fearing lack, because the well of supply is already flowing within your soul. You stop feeling isolated or abandoned, because how can you be alone when the very presence of God breathes in your lungs and whispers in your heart? Understanding God as the source within redefines prayer. It is no longer a performance or a ritual aimed at persuading a reluctant deity. It becomes a communion, an awakening, a deep stillness where you listen more than you speak. You go within not to escape the world, but to remember your authority in it. Prayer becomes a place of remembering who you are in God, and who God is in you. From that remembering, you rise differently. You face challenges with a steadiness that does not come from external security, but from internal awareness. You carry peace that surpasses understanding, not because circumstances are perfect, but because your source is unshakable. This indwelling presence is not just a comforter, it is a creator. It is the very force that speaks things into being, that calls the unseen into the seen. And when you become aware of that power within you, you stop limiting yourself to what the world says is possible. You begin to dream bigger, speak bolder, move freer. You begin to understand that the same intelligence that designed the stars now flows through your ideas. The same power that parted seas now parts your obstacles. The same spirit that raised what was dead now breathes new life into your weary places. You don't have to chase miracles. You live as a walking miracle. Many are waiting for something outside to change before they feel peace, joy, purpose. But when you live from the inside out, when you know God is the source within, you no longer wait, you create. You no longer fear the future because the one who authors it is speaking through your own spirit. You no longer shrink under pressure because your foundation is not built on sand, but on divine presence. And this presence never leaves, never lessens, never grows weary. It doesn't abandon you in confusion or need. It waits, it guides, it corrects, restores, empowers. Even in your lowest moments, the indwelling God does not retreat. You may feel lost, but God within you is not. You may feel weak, but the strength of God in you is untouched. That's the sacred mystery. Your emotions may fluctuate, your thoughts may wander, your confidence may falter, but the source within remains steady. It is your true anchor. The still voice that calls you back when fear rises. The peace that fills you when understanding fails. The wisdom that surfaces in silence. It is not separate from you. It is you, your highest self. your divine essence, your eternal spark. This is not merely a spiritual philosophy. It is a living truth that transforms how you speak, how you choose, how you wait, how you believe. You no longer have to seek what you already are. You no longer pray from separation, but from union. You don't try to earn what's already yours. You receive it, accept it, express it, and the more you return to that awareness, the more you see life responding to your inner state. Things begin to shift, not because you've manipulated circumstances, but because your alignment with the source within changes your frequency, your perception, your posture. God as the indwelling source frees you from the limitations of external dependency. You don't need everything around you to be calm to be calm. You don't need applause to feel worthy. You don't need doors to open for you to feel called. You understand that what God is doing in you is more important than what is happening to you. You begin to carry yourself as someone already empowered, already filled, already chosen. And in that place you become a channel for divine flow, a vessel through which love, wisdom, healing, and power move effortlessly into the world. Imagination as the bridge to manifestation is not a poetic metaphor. It is the spiritual technology that transforms the unseen into the seen. Every visible thing that exists, every invention, every structure, every breakthrough, first existed in the invisible realm of thought. And deeper than thought is imagination, the creative womb of the spirit. Imagination is where you meet the divine vision before it materializes, where you see not with your physical eyes but with the eyes of faith. It is not fantasy or escapism, it is the sacred language of your soul communicating with the universe. When rightly understood, imagination becomes more than a private daydream. It becomes the first act of creation. It is the place where you experience in full color and emotion the reality that has not yet arrived. And because your soul does not know the difference between what is vividly imagined and what is physically seen, it responds as though it is already happening, sending signals through your body, your energy, your words, and your actions to match that inner vision. When you dwell in imagination, you are no longer bound by the restrictions of your current circumstances. You may live in a small space, but in imagination you walk through the house God has already given you. You may be facing a diagnosis, but in imagination you rise in health, strong and whole. You may be alone now, but in imagination you are surrounded by divine connection, by the love already destined for you. And this is not about pretending or denying reality. It is about choosing to anchor yourself in a higher truth, to begin living from the end rather than chasing it. Imagination allows you to feel the joy before the harvest, to express the gratitude before the breakthrough, to walk as one who knows rather than one who waits. This inner vision is not just a quiet comfort, it is a creative force. What you continually imagine begins to shape your beliefs, and your beliefs shape your behavior. Your behavior shapes your habits, and your habits shape your life. That is the divine progression. When you imagine with conviction and repetition, you are not just hoping, you are rehearsing. You are creating a new mental blueprint that your subconscious begins to accept as reality. And the more you live in that internal vision, the more your external life begins to bend to match it. You no longer chase manifestations, you align with them. You no longer try to force outcomes, you embody them until they appear. Imagination also becomes a place of divine encounter. It is in imagination that the voice of God often speaks the loudest, because the noise of logic and limitation has quieted. There the Spirit paints visions on the canvas of your soul, visions of who you really are, what you were born to do, what your future already holds. And if you dare to believe that what you see within is more real than what surrounds you, you begin to walk in a new level of authority. You stop asking if and start asking how. You stop doubting and begin preparing. You stop shrinking and begin expanding, because you understand that what you've seen within is not just a desire, it is a divine seed placed in you to grow. Your imagination is sacred territory. It must be guarded, because whatever dominates your imagination dominates your destiny. If fear takes root there, you begin to manifest what you fear. If lack takes root there, your life begins to reflect it. But if hope lives there, peace grows. If love lives there, healing flows. If divine vision lives there, miracles become normal. That is why you must be intentional about what you allow yourself to picture, to feel, to dwell on. Because imagination is more than mental. It is spiritual. It is the space where you and God co-create reality. The moment you begin to imagine a new possibility consistently, you send a signal into the atmosphere. That signal is magnetic. It begins to draw to you the people, places, opportunities, and resources that align with your internal vision. But it also begins to repel what does not match that frequency. So don't be surprised when things fall away as you grow in vision. It is not loss, but alignment. The old must make space for the new. You are not just thinking differently, you are becoming different. And as you become, you attract differently. Because you are no longer aligned with who you were, but with who you are meant to be. Imagination also restores your sense of childlike faith. Children imagine without limits. They see castles in clouds, worlds in trees, victories in the simplest things. That is not foolishness. It is the purity of unblocked creativity. And as you return to that place, not childishness but childlikeness, you remember how to believe again. You remember how to feel joy before the answer. You remember how to see with your heart when your eyes see nothing. And that joy becomes strength. That belief becomes access. That vision becomes foundation. There are things in your life right now that may seem impossible, but if you can see them in your mind and feel them in your spirit, they are not only possible, they are already forming. What you are pregnant with in imagination is more real than what others can see with their eyes. Don't let anyone talk you out of what God has shown you in the secret place of your soul. Don't reduce your vision to match their doubt. Don't delay your manifestation by stepping out of agreement with what you've seen. Stay in that vision, nourish it, speak to it, live from it. Because the moment your inner world becomes more powerful than your outer conditions, the world around you will begin to bend to the truth you carry within. Trust as surrender, not control, is the final gateway to spiritual rest. It is the place where striving ceases and peace begins to flow. It's where you no longer carry the weight of the outcome, but allow God to unfold what has already been ordained. So many people equate trust with a subtle form of control. They say they trust, but only as long as they can predict how things will happen, when they will happen, or through whom they will happen. But that is not trust, that is conditional belief. Real trust requires letting go of the need to manage every detail, and leaning into the truth that what is meant for you cannot pass you. It means believing that the same God who planted the dream in your heart knows the exact timing, method, and sequence for it to come alive. To surrender is not to give up, it is to give over. You hand over the burden of understanding to the one who sees the end from the beginning. You let go of timelines and allow divine timing to orchestrate the process. You release the anxiety of figuring it all out and instead become anchored in the presence of the one who already has. Surrender means you are no longer arguing with life, no longer resisting the current moment, but flowing with it, trusting that even the delays, the detours, the disappointments are being used in your favor. Surrender is not passivity. It is powerful alignment. It is saying, God, I trust you more than I trust my fears. I trust you more than I trust my plans. I trust you more than I trust the evidence around me. In surrender, you become open to divine surprises. You make space for miracles because you're no longer holding on to one rigid path of how it must come to pass. You no longer lock yourself into one door, one connection, one answer. You begin to understand that God has options you haven't imagined, strategies that exceed logic and resources you've never seen. And when you loosen your grip on control, you become available to be led. You start hearing more clearly, moving more peacefully, responding more wisely, not because you know the future, but because you are rooted in the one who does. Trust as surrender also changes how you wait. Waiting is no longer an agonizing delay. It becomes a sacred preparation. You don't wait as someone desperate for rescue. You wait as someone expectant of fulfillment. You wait not in frustration, but in faith. The time between the promise and the manifestation becomes your training ground, not your punishment. It's where your roots go deeper. Your clarity becomes sharper. Your spirit becomes stronger. You stop asking, when will it happen? And start asking, who am I becoming in the process? You realize that God is not just working on your circumstances. He's working in your character, in your vision, in your capacity to hold what you're asking for. Surrender also quiets the inner war. The conflict between what you see and what you believe no longer has power over you. You are no longer split between trust and fear, between peace and panic. You stop going back and forth in your mind, trying to predict every outcome. You stop exhausting yourself with questions that were never yours to answer. You stop clinging to doors that have closed and start embracing the truth that closed doors are divine protection. You stop begging for clarity and start walking with courage. Because surrender has become your song, and in that place you experience freedom. Not freedom from problems, but freedom from the illusion that you must control them all. There's a maturity that comes when you learn to rest while it's still raining, to be still before the storm ends, to sing before the answer arrives. That maturity is not weakness, it is spiritual mastery. It's the ability to smile while waiting, to love without certainty, to give without expecting, to trust even when the road is dark. That kind of trust cannot be faked. It is born through experience, through the seasons where you tried to control everything and burned out, through the moments where your plan failed but grace held you, through the days when you had nothing left but the whisper of faith in your chest. And somehow in all of that God proved faithful, not because things always turned out the way you wanted, but because you were held, guided, and sustained through it all. Surrender also makes room for intimacy. When you no longer come to God as a transaction, trying to earn, prove, or persuade, you begin to simply be. You begin to rest in His presence, not just seek His hand. You begin to love the giver more than the gift. You begin to crave peace more than answers. And in that sacred space, trust deepens. You don't need signs to believe. You believe because you've encountered love, and love never fails. You don't panic when things are silent, because silence no longer scares you. It comforts you because you know that even in the silence, God is moving. As trust deepens, your posture in life changes. You walk into rooms differently. You speak with less fear. You let go quicker. You forgive faster. You no longer need to explain your process to everyone because you know who's guiding it. You no longer need external validation to confirm your steps because your peace becomes your compass. You don't fight every battle anymore. You choose your energy wisely, knowing not every fight is yours to engage. You stop defending what God has already promised to protect. You move from striving to flowing, from reacting to responding, from trying to impress people to simply expressing your truth. You carry a quiet authority, the kind that comes from someone who knows that everything they need is already taken care of. Surrender is not a moment, it is a lifestyle, a continual returning, a daily letting go, a sacred invitation to place your plans, your questions, your hopes into hands far more capable than your own. It is the release that gives you rest, the loosening that gives you strength, the letting go that makes room for all that is meant for you to finally arrive. So now, let your heart settle into this truth. God can be trusted completely, not partially, not only when things make sense, but entirely. He is not asking you to figure everything out, control every outcome, or predict every twist in the journey. He is asking you to remember that He is the source, the guide, the strength, and the completion of everything that concerns you. When you trust God to take care of you, you are not being weak, you are being wise. You are returning to the original design where the Creator carries the creation, where the shepherd leads the sheep, where the Father provides for His child. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not without help. The same power that breathes stars into existence is the same power watching over every detail of your life. Trust is not a passive state. It is an active choice to live in peace, to speak with faith, to move with courage even when the path isn't clear. You don't need to strive for what God has already promised. You only need to believe it, see it within, speak it with conviction, and let go of the rest. Surrender your fears, your timelines, your doubts, and open yourself fully to the divine rhythm already working in your favor. The future you're praying for is not far off. It's being formed within your surrender. And the more you release control, the more you will witness the miraculous flow of grace in every area of your life. Trust God to take care of you because He always has, He still is, and He always will. Tonight I invite you to step beyond the veil of appearances and peer into the eternal law that governs all things, the divine law of cause and effect. But I do not speak of the law as it is taught in the schools of logic or the dry philosophies of men. No, this is a sacred law, vibrantly alive, pulsing with creative power, the invisible root from which all visible things spring forth. The world you behold, with all its seeming complexity, is but the outpicturing of unseen causes. And where are these causes? Look not to the stars, nor to fate, nor to the opinions of others. The cause of all that you experience lies within. It is your inner movement, your felt state of consciousness, that gives rise to the effects you call reality. The secret is astonishingly simple. Your world is yourself pushed out. You walk through your own inner conversations, clothed in people and events. Every encounter, every triumph, every trial, these are mirrors reflecting the state you most consistently occupy within. And if you would change the outer, you must first change the inner. Do not be deceived by appearances. They are shadows cast by past imaginal acts. And so if you wish to shape a new destiny, you must turn from what your senses report and enter the silence, there to feel the reality of your desire as though it were already true. For feeling is the secret key, not idle wishing, not hopeful pleading, but the bold assumption that what you desire is already yours. You need no intermediary, no outer ritual, no permission from the world. You are the operant power. The law responds not to lip service, but to your innermost conviction. So dare to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Rest in that state, walk in that state, and persist in that state, and the world will reshuffle itself to mirror your new cause. This is not theory, this is law, divine law, immutable and exact, as certain as gravity. What you dare to imagine and sustain with feeling must come to pass, for imagination is the only cause. The inner movement, the unseen act, is the true genesis of everything you experience. Test it. Take a desire, a true desire, one that burns quietly in your heart, and bring it into the present moment. See it, hear it, touch it in the theater of your mind, and then feel it. Enter the scene until it feels real. Fall asleep in it. Walk your days in it. Return to it when doubt comes knocking. And in time, without striving, without struggle, what was once imaginal will become factual. It cannot fail. Every event in your life has its root in an imaginal act. The world is but the echo of your inner voice. Change the voice, change the world. For consciousness is the one and only reality. And your assumption, your belief, your feeling, these are the seeds you plant in the field of the divine. So, plant with care, imagine with love, and know that the law is always working, always producing after its kind. Whether in ignorance or in wisdom, we are always sowing, and what we sow, we shall surely reap. Now understand this, the outer world is not causative. It is not the source of your joy or your sorrow. It is not the origin of your luck or misfortune. It is the reflection. It is the print of the mold cast within you. And the mold is your state of consciousness. The divine law of cause and effect is not something distant, not some ancient commandment etched in stone. It is here now, in every breath you take, in every idea you entertain and accept as true. This law is divine because it never errs. It does not judge. It does not discriminate. It simply reflects. Imagine a mirror. The mirror does not ask whether your expression is good or bad, happy or sorrowful. It simply reflects what is before it. So it is with this law. Your dominant feelings, your assumptions, your imaginal acts, they form the pattern that the world must express. If you live in the feeling of lack, of fear, of limitation, then lack will surround you, fear will chase you, and limitation will manifest as fact. Not because you are being punished, but because you are powerful. You see, power is not given to a few. It is bestowed upon all, for it is inherent in consciousness itself. The moment you become aware, you are invested with this divine ability to imagine, to feel, to assume, and thereby to create. You may not have known you were using it, but you were. Every time you said, "This always happens to me," and it did, there was your proof. Every time you felt unworthy and found yourself passed over, overlooked, dismissed, that was the law in motion, honoring your inner decree. But once you awaken to this truth, once you realize that your inner conversations are causal, everything changes. You begin to take dominion over your thoughts, not by force, but by awareness. You begin to ask yourself, not what do I want, but what would I feel if it were already mine? How would I walk? How would I speak? How would I carry myself if I truly believed it done? And then you dwell in that feeling, you nurture it, you persist in it, and the world must respond. It has no choice. The universe is not arbitrary. It is lawful, it is precise, and it bends not to your words, but to your inner state. So many ask, how long must I wait? But that is the wrong question. Time is not the master, time is the servant. Your job is not to watch the clock, but to dwell in the state. to remain faithful to your imaginal act. For the seed does not sprout because you dug it up every day to see if it was growing. It sprouts because you planted it, watered it, and trusted the process. So it is with this divine law. Persist in the assumption that your desire is fulfilled, and the outer world will rearrange itself to bring it forth. But beware the temptation to speak against your desire. Do not cancel your inner work with careless words. Do not say nothing ever works out for me, and then wonder why the doors remain closed. Your words are born of your inner state, and your state is the cause of all. If you would change your speech, change your feeling. Enter a new mood, a new inner climate, and the words will change effortlessly. You may say, but I don't feel wealthy, I don't feel loved, I don't feel healthy. Then I tell you, that is precisely where the work begins. Not by changing the world, but by changing the self. Go within, shut the door, turn away from what is, and enter into the imaginal scene of your desire fulfilled. Make it so vivid, so rich with sensory detail that you lose yourself in it. See what you would see, hear what you would hear, touch what you would touch. Let it be real, real enough to move you emotionally. For emotion is the fuel of creation. It is not enough to visualize. You must feel. You must move into the state of the wish fulfilled and make your home there. Not visit it as a guest, but dwell there as a resident. Speak from it, think from it, act from it. And soon, what was once inner will become outer. What was once unseen will stand before you in concrete reality. This is not daydreaming, this is not fantasy, this is divine law. This is how creation works, whether we understand it or not. Your imagination is not idle. It is the very workshop of God. And every time you assume a thing to be true, whether good or bad, you set in motion unseen forces that crystallize that assumption into fact. So if you find yourself living in unwanted conditions, do not condemn yourself, do not despair, simply revise. Go within and change the cause. Do not fight the effect, transcend it. See yourself as already free, already joyful, already prosperous, and hold that vision with love and faith, knowing that it must become your experience. There is no limit to what you can create, save the limits you accept. The world will tell you to be realistic. It will caution you not to expect too much. But reality is not fixed. Reality is fluid. It is a mirror, not a master. And when you change the image you hold within, the mirror must reflect it. This is the power that has been entrusted to you, not to beg, not to wish, but to assume and feel and create. Ask yourself now, what am I imagining? What am I entertaining in the theater of my mind? What story am I telling myself when no one is watching? For that is the story you are writing into your world. And if you would write a new chapter, you must begin by writing a new script. You cannot plant corn and reap wheat. The law does not mock you. It gives to each according to their inner state. Not what they say, not what they hope, but what they truly believe and feel themselves to be. So dare to believe differently. Dare to imagine more nobly. Dare to feel yourself into the life you desire. Even now, as I speak, you can begin right where you are. You don't need anything outside you to start. You don't need approval or money or perfect circumstances. You need only one thing: your willingness to assume the feeling of your desire fulfilled. That is the golden key, that is the door. It may seem too simple, too easy, but the truth is always simple. It is our doubt, our conditioning, our fear that complicates it. We have been taught to worship the external, to chase results, to seek validation, but those things are echoes, they are effects. Return to the cause. Return to yourself. Begin to treat your imagination as sacred, not a place of idle fantasy, but the holy place of creation, the very womb of reality. What you accept there with feeling will be born here in time. And once it is born, do not say, I knew this would happen. Say instead, it is just as I imagined. And keep imagining, keep refining, keep elevating your inner world, for the outer will always follow the inner. It cannot do otherwise. This is the divine law, unwavering and eternal. You are not a victim of chance, nor a pawn in the hands of fate. You are the master of your destiny, the author of your story, the creator of your world. Let others call it coincidence, luck, serendipity. You will know the truth. You will have unlocked the secret. And the secret is not hidden. It is whispered in your heart every time you dare to dream. Every time you close your eyes and feel the reality of a better life. That is the voice of the divine within you, calling you home to yourself. So go now, not to do more, but to be more. Be still, be aware, be faithful to the unseen, and let the seen follow, for it must. It is law. You see, the law does not ask whether your desire is small or large, simple or complex. It responds to the nature of your assumption, to the depth of your belief. If you can feel it real, if you can enter the state and remain there, regardless of what the senses may scream, the law will not fail you. It never has, it never will. It is not a respecter of persons, it is a respecter of states. And every state contains within it the seeds of its own fulfillment. Doubt, then, is not an external force working against you. It is simply a shift of state. You leave the state of the wish fulfilled and enter into the state of not yet, not now, maybe never. And so the outer reflects that new state, but just as easily you may return. You may walk right back into the state of your desire. You may reclaim it with nothing more than a shift in feeling, a movement in imagination. Do not wait for permission to believe. Do not seek signs in the world before you allow yourself to feel what you long for. That is placing effect before cause. That is trying to see your reflection smile before you smile yourself. The cause is always within. The inner movement must precede the outer manifestation. You may say, but I have assumed, and still I see nothing. Then I ask you, have you truly assumed, or have you merely hoped? Have you dwelled in the state, or only visited it occasionally? Have you persisted, or have you allowed appearances to rob you of your faith? For persistence is the fire that burns away all opposition. It is not the occasional assumption that bears fruit, but the sustained one. You are not being tested by some external judge. You are being invited to learn the laws of your own being. You are being shown that your every thought is a seed, your every feeling a mold. And when that seed is watered with repetition and belief, when that mold is held in the stillness of faith, it must take form. Even your reactions are creative. What you accept as true of yourself and of others, what you consent to emotionally, these become the patterns of your life. Do not judge by appearances, but judge righteous judgment. That is, judge not according to what is, but according to what you desire to see made manifest. If someone mistreats you, imagine them differently. If a situation oppresses you, revise it in your mind's eye. For all things are flexible, all conditions are subject to change. Nothing is fixed unless you persist in imagining it so. That is the wonder and the responsibility of this divine gift, the gift of imagination. You may enslave yourself with it, or you may set yourself free. You have been told, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That is not poetic language, it is spiritual law. The heart in that teaching refers not to emotion alone, but to belief, the deep inner conviction of what is true. If you think yourself poor, unloved, incapable, then life will affirm that belief again and again, not to punish, but to reflect. And the moment you think otherwise, the moment you dare to assume that you are rich in spirit, deeply loved and divinely capable, the mirror must change. It cannot hold the old reflection when you are no longer standing there, so move, shift, imagine again. Take your attention away from what is and give it fully to what can be, what already is in the unseen realm of imagination. That unseen realm is not less real, It is more real, for it is cause. It is the womb of creation. Every great life, every miracle, every sudden change began as an imaginal act. You may not have seen the imagining, but it was there. Nothing comes into being uncaused. The divine does not play dice with the universe. What you see now is simply harvest. If you do not like what grows in your field, do not curse the fruit, change the seed. You are never stuck. No matter how permanent your situation may seem, you are simply standing in a state, and all states are movable. You may shift this very moment. You may rise out of limitation and into liberty by assuming a new feeling. There is no process more sacred, no ritual more powerful, no ceremony more effective than the still, quiet act of imagining differently. This is the true temple, not one built with hands, but the inner sanctuary of your awareness. Here in the silence, in the secrecy of your own being, is where creation begins. No one may see you do it, no one may applaud or affirm you, but soon the results will speak for themselves. And the world will say, "How did this happen?" And you will know. You will smile not because you were lucky, but because you were faithful to the unseen. Do not measure your ability by what you have done before. Do not limit yourself to the facts of the past. The past is but a memory, held alive only by your attention. Withdraw that attention. Free yourself from its weight. The only moment that creates is now, and now you are free to assume whatever state you choose. Choose wisely, choose boldly, do not shrink before your desires. They are not foolish. They are not excessive. They are messages from the deeper part of you, the divine part, whispering what is possible. Trust them, honor them, step into them in imagination, and claim them as already yours. Others may not understand. That is fine. You are not required to convince them. The law does not need consensus to function. It only needs your assumption, your inner consent. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, when you feel it to be real, the world begins to echo that state in 1,000 ways. Doors open, people show up, ideas come, things shift, and you stand at the center of it all, not as a spectator, but as a creator, not as one who waits, but as one who commands, not with force, but with faith. Faith is not blind. Faith sees what the eyes cannot. It sees through the lens of the fulfilled desire. It walks as if, speaks as if, lives as if, and thereby calls the unseen into visibility. When you have faith in this divine law, you no longer fear appearances. You no longer react with panic or doubt. You know that what you see is old news, echoes of imaginations past, and you know with quiet certainty that a new echo is forming even now from your present assumption. So ask yourself, what am I assuming now? Not yesterday, not last year, now. For now is all there is, and from now flows every future. Are you assuming life is hard, that money is scarce, that love is distant? Then that shall be your experience, not because it must be, but because you are imagining it so. But you can choose again. You can assume that life is for you, that abundance flows freely, that love surrounds you and rises within you. You can walk in that state long before the evidence arrives, and in doing so, you call it into being. Do not let the delay fool you. Every assumption fulfilled has its own gestation. A rose and an oak tree grow at different paces, but both respond to the law. Trust the seed, trust the process. Persist without strain, live in the end, and let the means unfold. You do not need to know how. That is not your domain. You only need to know that it is so, that it is already done, that the unseen cause is now active and the effect will follow. This is the secret. This is the great mystery unveiled. You are not separate from the divine, you are an expression of it. And the power that formed the stars now works through your imagination. Use it with love, use it with awareness, use it to bless, to uplift, to create beauty in your world and the world of others. This law is not here to bind you, it is here to set you free, to remind you of what you truly are, not flesh and bone alone, but spirit clothed in form. And your spirit, your imagination, is the sacred workshop in which worlds are made. The door is always open, the moment is always now. The law is always listening. The law does not sleep. It is not activated only when you concentrate or when you make a deliberate effort. It is working at all times, faithfully echoing the state you occupy, whether that state was entered with intention or by unconscious habit. This is why it is said, "Watch ye therefore, watch what you allow yourself to feel, watch what you consent to be true. For what you consent to, you become." And the great tragedy is not that people imagine too boldly, it is that they imagine too small, too passively, too fearfully. They believe more in the evidence of their senses than in the power of their inner world. But the senses are not the source of truth. They are the shadows cast by earlier imaginings. To live by the senses alone is to drift like a leaf on the wind, carried by conditions you unknowingly created. But when you turn within and begin to live from the imagination, from the inner conviction that your desire is already yours, you take back your creative power. You become a conscious participant in your unfolding destiny. You are no longer driven, you are directing. You are no longer at the mercy of the world, you are shaping it. This is the divine law of cause and effect, that every inner movement creates a corresponding outer movement. That the world is yourself, written in form, and that to change the world you need not beg or strive or compete, you need only to assume a new state, to feel the reality of your ideal and persist in that feeling. Persistence is the secret ingredient. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled once and then return to doubt is like planting a seed and then digging it up. But to dwell in the state, to return to it again and again, to live from it until it becomes your natural home, this is the true creative act. And you do not need effort to persist, only love. If you truly love the feeling of your desire fulfilled, you will return to it often. You will dwell in it as in a sacred space. You will wear it like a robe, soft and familiar, and the world in response will yield to your inner conviction. You need not force change in others. You need not battle circumstances. The only change you ever need to make is within yourself. And when you change, everything changes. For the world is a mirror, and it cannot reflect anything except what you are imagining it to be. This is why resentment, blame, and bitterness are such dangerous companions. Not because they are immoral, but because they are creative. They fix your attention on unwanted states, and in doing so they perpetuate them. But when you forgive, when you let go of the old story and imagine a new, you dissolve the past and create a new cause. And the new effect must follow. You are always standing at a threshold, always holding the power to imagine a better life, a freer version of yourself. But you must enter the state to know its fruit. Not wish for it, not admire it from afar, but live in it, dwell in it, be it. For being is the only true knowing. To say I am and follow it with truth, with conviction, is to call that truth into form. If you say I am successful and feel it, believe it, rest in it, then success must find you. If you say I am loved and let that feeling saturate your being, then love must reflect itself in your world. The divine does not delay because it is cruel. It does not withhold because it is testing you. It gives instantly to your state of consciousness. The delay you experience is only the time it takes for the outer to catch up with the inner. But the change happens at once. The moment you shift your state, the harvest begins. You may not see it immediately, but it is done. And so you walk in faith, not because you are blind, but because you have seen the truth with inner vision. You have felt the reality of the thing you desire, and now you walk as if it were already so. That is faith, that is power, that is alignment with the divine law. No condition is permanent unless you declare it so. No pattern repeats unless you feed it with your attention. The moment you say, "No more," and turn within to assume a new state, the old must begin to dissolve. It may resist, it may linger, but it cannot hold. The light of a new assumption is too powerful for the shadows of the past. Do not ask the world to be different. Ask yourself, what am I assuming about this? And then change the assumption. If you see someone as hostile, imagine them kind. If you feel poor, imagine abundance. If you feel stuck, imagine freedom. For every change you make within will eventually write itself upon the screen of space. And what is space? It is nothing but imagination made visible. It is the stage upon which your assumptions play out. Your world is not separate from you, it is you, projected outward, mirrored back. You do not live in a world, you live through it. And you walk among your own thoughts, dressed in form. So choose your thoughts well, choose your inner conversations with care, for what you repeat in the silence of your mind becomes the loudest echo in your life. Speak to yourself as one who is already what they long to be. Think from your desire, not of it. Feel from its fulfillment, not toward it. This is the great art, the art of imagining. It is not idle fantasy, it is divine instruction. Every prophet, every sage, every awakened soul has known this secret, that imagination is God in action, that what you dare to claim in the inner world will one day stand firm in the outer. But it begins with you, not with the world, not with the others, with you, with your decision to believe, your choice to assume, your willingness to persist. So go now, not to strive, not to plead, not to wish, but to assume. Go in the stillness of your being. Close your eyes and see what your heart longs to see. Feel what your soul longs to feel, and rest there. Rest in the truth that the divine law is already at work, that the effect is on its way, because the cause has already been planted. You are not waiting on life, life is waiting on you. And if ever you forget, if the world overwhelms you with its noise, remember this: the silence within is your sanctuary. It is not emptiness, it is fullness, alive with infinite potential. When the noise outside becomes too loud, retreat into yourself, not to escape, but to create. Go there not to beg, but to know, to remember who you are. You are not a prisoner of your past. You are not the result of statistics or predictions or others' expectations. You are not the labels you've worn nor the failures you've feared. You are cause clothed in form. You are the unseen made visible. And what you now choose to accept as true of yourself, that is the next chapter of your life. So make the inner world more real than the outer. Feel more deeply about what you desire than what you fear. If your body feels sick, imagine it whole. If your bank account is low, imagine it full. Not as a childish game, not as denial, but as the highest form of faith. Faith is imagination set to motion with certainty. It is knowing beyond all appearances that the unseen is greater than the seen. And in this knowing, everything bends. Even the hardest conditions, even the most long-standing patterns, yield to the steady, confident assumption that they are already changed, that you are already changed, that your world is already reflecting your new state, because it must. The law is divine because it does not change. It has never failed and never will. It is the same yesterday, today, and forever. It is written into the fabric of being, vibrating in every cell of existence, echoing in every breath you take. You are never apart from it. You cannot be. You are it, expressing itself in time. So let go of effort. Let go of waiting. Begin to accept now, not later, not when the outer matches, but now, when it matters most. The moment you feel it real, you claim dominion. You say to the world, I am not waiting to see, I see, and therefore it shall be. Others may call you foolish. They may ask, where is it? Where's the proof? But you need not prove a thing. Your knowing is enough. Your assumption is the seed, and in time when the fruit appears, they will forget they doubted. Or they will ask for your secret, and you will know it was never outside of you, it was always within. Every transformation begins in silence, in stillness, in the unseen place where you choose again. Choose to be. Choose to feel. Choose to walk as the one you desire to be. And the law, faithful, obedient, exact, will mirror that choice in every detail of your life. If you fall, if you doubt, if you slip into old patterns, do not condemn yourself, do not reinforce the state you wish to leave. Simply rise again, assume again, feel again. The law does not punish, it only reflects. You are always free to move, free to shift, free to create anew. So, saturate yourself with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let it fill your words, your thoughts, your gestures. Speak as one who already knows. Smile as one who has already received. Not because you are pretending, but because you are awakening to the truth. The truth that you are one with the creative power of the universe, and it moves at the command of your assumption. This is why imagination is holy, why it must be treated not as a daydream, but as a sacred act. You are shaping substance with every scene you construct, with every feeling you entertain. You are not hoping, you are creating. And creation begins with the inner vision sustained by inner conviction. Do not wait for conditions to give you permission. They will never come. The world does not tell you who you are. You tell it. And when you finally decide, when you finally stand in the knowing of your own power, the world must rearrange to make room for the new version of you. Your relationships will change, your finances will shift, your health will align, not by chance, not by force, but by the law. You change the cause, and the effect, faithful and sure, follows. The change may come in ways you do not expect. Let it. Do not limit the law to your logic. Do not demand it come by the method you chose. Your only task is to remain faithful to the end you have imagined. The how is not your burden. The how is the domain of the unseen forces that obey your state. So be unwavering, be still, be bold, and if fear visits you, speak to it. Say, I know who I am, I know what I have assumed, I know what I have felt to be true, and so it is. Let your faith be louder than your fear. Let your vision be stronger than your senses. Do not argue with the old world. Simply outgrow it. Do not resist the past. Revise it. In your imagination, rewrite the scene. Make it right. Let it heal. Let it align with your ideal. For imagination is not bound by time. It redeems, it resurrects, it reorders all things according to your assumption. You are not just a participant in life. You are the initiator. You begin the motion. You set the tone. You are the origin, not the echo. And the more you assume this truth, the more your life will reflect the majesty and power that has always been yours. So walk gently, but with power. Speak softly, but with conviction. Live quietly, but with vision. Let your inner world become so rich, so clear, so real, that the outer has no choice but to mirror it. And when it does, you will not be surprised. You will not wonder how. You will smile with peace, with knowing, and simply say, of course. And even now, as these words reach you, something within is stirring, a quiet recognition. Not because these truths are new to you, but because they were always there, waiting to be remembered. This divine law is not foreign to your being. It is your being. It does not need to be understood intellectually to be used. It only needs to be accepted and lived. There is no distance between you and your desire. The only thing that stands between you and what you seek is a state. And states are not earned, they are chosen. At any moment you may choose again. You may step out of the identity of lack and into the identity of fulfillment. You may leave the shadow and step into the light. You do this not by willpower but by feeling, by assuming the state and letting it claim you from within. The moment you assume a new state, you begin to think new thoughts. You speak in a new tone. You radiate a new energy. You attract different outcomes, not by striving, not by effort, but by law. The world reflects back what you are, not what you want. And so, wanting changes nothing. Being changes everything. And this is why so many struggle. They continue to want, to hope, to plead, but they do not step into the state. They wait for the world to give them permission to feel the thing they long for. But the law does not respond to waiting. It responds to feeling. It responds to assumption. It responds to the one who dares to say, I am, even when the senses scream otherwise. Can you walk as one who is already healed, even when the body still aches? Can you speak as one who is already free, even when the cage still rattles? Can you bless your world even when it seems barren, knowing that your blessing is planting the cause of your next harvest? This is the secret of the great ones. Not that they had more power than you, but that they believed. They turned within and stayed there. They refused to accept appearances as final. They walked in imagination more than in memory. They practiced the feeling of fulfillment until the world bowed to their vision. And so can you. Imagination is not escape. It is direction. It is the divine blueprint from which reality unfolds. When you imagine with feeling, you are not creating a fantasy, you are creating a spiritual prototype. And the law, which never fails, will give it flesh in its time. But you must not let doubt erode your state. Doubt is not something to fight, it is something to transcend. You do not defeat doubt with struggle. You defeat it by returning to the state of knowing, by feeling the end again and again until it becomes your dwelling place. Live from the end, not toward it, not hoping for it from it. Every time you speak, ask yourself, am I speaking from the fulfilled state or from the unfulfilled one? Every time you act, ask, am I acting as the one who has or the one who lacks? The answers will show you your state, and your state is your cause. You cannot trick the law with words. You cannot say one thing and feel another and expect results. It is not the statement that creates, it is the assumption behind the statement. You may say, I am wealthy 1,000 times, but if you feel lack, the law hears your feeling, not your words. But if you say it once and feel it, believe it, know it, then the seed is sown. The world will test that seed, not to destroy it, but to strengthen your conviction. Do not be shaken. The storm comes only to reveal the firmness of your foundation. If you hold to your state, even when appearances contradict it, you will see what few allow themselves to see, the law bending reality around your assumption. And then you will know that nothing was ever outside you. The people, the money, the answers, the opportunities, they all moved in response to the silent music you played within. You became the cause, and the world became the echo. And then life becomes different. No longer are you tossed about by circumstance. You move with purpose, not panic. You respond with calm, not confusion, because you know deeply, unwaveringly, that you are not reacting to life, you are creating it. You may not control every event, but you control the cause. You may not choose the sequence of how things arrive, but you choose the state from which they come. And when you hold the state, the sequence arranges itself. So begin now, not tomorrow, not after things improve, now. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled now. Let it wrap around you like a coat. Let it become more real than the chair you sit on. Let it be your atmosphere, your breath, your home. The more you dwell in that state, the more the world must conform. It is law, it is certain, it is exact. The universe is not random, it is precise. It does not operate on chance, but on correspondence. Your inner state is the blueprint, and reality is the building. Do not concern yourself with tearing down the old. Simply build the new. The old will dissolve on its own. When the light comes, the darkness vanishes. When the new state is stable, the old state loses its power. So, stabilize yourself in your chosen state. Return to it often. Visit it in imagination until it becomes your default reality, until your reactions, your words, your energy align with it naturally. And soon, what was once only felt will be seen, what was once only imagined will be lived, and the world will seem changed, not because it changed, but because you did. And when you change, everything follows. And so, as you walk forward from this moment, remember, there is no power outside of you greater than the one within you. You are the cause clothed in form. You are the imaginer, the dreamer, the operant power. The world is not waiting to bless you, it is waiting to reflect you. Assume the highest, the noblest, the most beautiful version of yourself, and hold to it with unwavering faith. Feel it real, live from the end, and the law perfect and sure will not fail to bring it forth. All things are possible now. All things are yours now. Simply claim them in the silence by the law, and it is done. I want to talk to you today about something that's gripping the hearts of many people in this world: worry. It creeps into our minds, wraps around our souls, and before we know it, we're paralyzed by fear, doubt, and anxiety. Worry steals your sleep, it robs your peace, and it blinds your eyes to the promises of God. But I want to tell you today, there is a better way. There is a higher path. You don't have to live shackled to fear and anxiety. You don't have to try and control every step of your journey. You can stop worrying and let God lead you. You see, the human heart was never meant to carry the weight of the world. That's why we break down, that's why we wear out. We were created not to be the captain of the ship, but to trust the one who made the ocean. There is a God who sits on the throne of the universe, and he is not surprised by your circumstances. He is not caught off guard by your trials. He is not confused by your confusion. He knows the end from the beginning, and he calls you today, not to understand everything, but to trust him in everything. Some of you are worried about your future. You lie awake at night, tossing and turning, wondering how things are going to turn out. You've looked at the job market, the economy, the political climate, and you've started to panic. But my friend, has God ever failed? Has he ever broken a promise? Has he ever led his people into ruin? No. Time after time, he has shown that he is faithful. When the Israelites stood before the Red Sea, they thought it was the end. But God made a way where there was no way. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, it looked like his fate was sealed. But God shut the mouths of the lions. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to take the next step in faith. You don't need to have the plan all figured out. You just need to know the one who holds the plan. He is a good shepherd, and when you let him lead, you shall not want. He will make you lie down in green pastures. He will lead you beside still waters. He will restore your soul. Some of you are worried about your past, haunted by mistakes, weighed down by guilt, paralyzed by shame. But the cross speaks a better word. The blood of Jesus Christ doesn't just cover your sins, it washes them away. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed your transgressions from you. You are not defined by your failure, you are defined by his forgiveness. So stop carrying what God already buried. Stop worrying about what's already being nailed to the cross. There is power in surrender. When you let go, God takes hold. When you stop trying to control everything, that's when you begin to see him move. He doesn't need your perfection, he needs your surrender. He doesn't ask you to carry the burden, he asks you to cast it on him, for he cares for you. You don't need to have all the answers, you just need to know the one who does. He sees the storm and he walks on the waves. He sees your brokenness and he brings healing. He sees your fear and he gives peace, not the peace the world gives, temporary, shallow, and weak, but the peace that passes all understanding, a peace that guards your heart and your mind, a peace that says, even if the mountains fall and the earth gives way, I will not fear, for my God is with me. Stop worrying, stop striving, stop trying to carry what only God was meant to carry. He is able, he is willing, and he is already working. Let him lead you, let him guide you, let him carry you. And you will find that his way is better than anything you could have imagined. You may feel like you're standing at a crossroads right now, unsure which way to go. You've prayed, you've cried, you've asked for direction, but the road ahead still seems blurry. And the temptation is strong to take matters into your own hands, to force an outcome, to rush a decision, to grasp for control. But listen carefully. The still, small voice of God is not in the whirlwind. It's not in the fire or the earthquake. It's in the quiet whisper calling you to wait, to trust, to follow even when you can't see. Some of you are asking, how can I let God lead me when everything around me is falling apart? That's the question we all wrestle with, especially in seasons of loss, in the valley of disappointment, in the middle of heartbreak. You want answers, you want clarity, but often God doesn't give you the full picture. He gives you just enough light for the next step. That's where faith is born. That's where trust is formed. That's where you stop leaning on your own understanding and start leaning into his promises. And oh, how precious his promises are. He says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. He says, fear not, for I am with you. He says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. These aren't just comforting words, they are eternal truths. God is not a man that he should lie. If he said it, he will do it. If he promised it, he will fulfill it. You can stand on his word when everything else is sinking sand. Now, some of you are trying to fight battles that were never meant for you to fight alone. You're exhausted, not just physically, but spiritually. You've tried to fix everything in your own strength. You've tried to be the savior, the solution, the hero, and it's worn you down. But there's good news. You're not the savior. You're not supposed to be. The weight of the world is not on your shoulder. There is one who carried that weight to Calvary, who stretched out his arms on a wooden cross and said, it is finished. The battle belongs to the Lord. When you let God lead, you stop striving and start abiding. You stop panicking and start praying. You stop reacting and start resting. And make no mistake, resting in God is not weakness, it is power. Because when you're resting in him, you're trusting in his sovereignty. You're declaring, God, I don't have to know what's next because I know you, and you are enough. Think about the disciples in the boat during the storm. The wind was raging, the waves were crashing, and panic had taken hold. And where was Jesus? Asleep. Not because he didn't care, but because he wasn't afraid. He knew the storm was subject to his voice. He knew the waves knew his name. And he stood up in that boat and said, peace, be still. And the storm obeyed. You need to know that the same Jesus is in your... He hasn't left you. He hasn't forgotten you. And when the time is right, he will stand and speak peace into your storm. But you have to let him lead. You have to stop wrestling and start releasing. Worry is often rooted in the illusion of control. We think that if we can just think enough, plan enough, prepare enough, we can keep bad things from happening. But life doesn't work that way. Jesus said, can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? Worry doesn't add, it subtracts. It subtracts joy, it subtracts peace, it subtracts clarity. But trust adds, trust builds, trust sustains. Look at the birds of the air, Jesus said. They don't sow or reap or store away in barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? And yet here we are, trying to figure out tomorrow when God is already there. Here we are stressing over outcomes when God is already working all things together for our good. There is such a freedom in surrender. When you truly let go, when you open your hands and say, Lord, not my will, but yours be done, something shifts in your spirit. You stop asking why and start asking what now. You stop doubting and start depending. And that's when you begin to experience the fullness of God's presence, not just in the mountaintop moments, but in the mundane, in the waiting, in the valley. That's when you begin to hear his voice more clearly, not because he's speaking louder, but because your heart has become quieter. You see, worry drowns out the whisper of God, but peace prepares the heart to hear him. And peace doesn't come from understanding every detail. It comes from knowing the one who holds every detail. You don't need a map when you have the guide. You don't need to control the journey when you know the one who designed the road. Maybe right now you're in a place of uncertainty. Maybe things didn't go the way you expected. The job didn't come through, the relationship didn't last, the diagnosis came back different than you hoped. And now you're sitting in the middle of the unknown, asking God where he is. Let me tell you, he's closer than you think. He's right there in the silence. He's in the stillness. And he's saying, be still and know that I am God. He's not in a hurry. He's not rushing your process. He's building something deeper in you. Character, resilience, dependence. Sometimes God delays the breakthrough because he's more concerned about what he's doing in you than what he's doing for you. Sometimes he withholds the answer because he wants to become the answer. You may not feel strong enough, you may not feel ready, but you don't have to be. His strength is made perfect in your weakness. You just need to show up every day with an open heart and a willing spirit. You just need to keep walking, even if it's one step at a time. You just need to keep trusting, even when nothing makes sense. Because faith is not about feelings. Faith is not about everything going right. Faith is about saying, God, I believe you even when I don't see the outcome. I trust you even when the doors are closed. I'll follow you even when the path is unclear. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains. That's the kind of trust that breaks chains. That's the kind of surrender that invites heaven to invade your circumstances. So I say to you today, stop worrying, let it go, hand it over, not just part of it, all of it. Give him your future, give him your past, give him your fears, your doubts, your plans, your dreams. Lay them all at his feet and say, Lord, I don't want to lead anymore. I want to follow you. And when you do, you will find rest for your soul. You will find peace in the middle of the storm. You will find strength you didn't know you had. Because when God leads, he provides. When God leads, he protects. When God leads, he finishes what he started. Keep your eyes on him. Keep your heart open. Keep your hands lifted and watch what happens when you let go of worry and let God take the lead. You may have tried to lead yourself for so long that letting go feels unnatural. You've been taught to figure it all out, to have backup plans, to always be ready to fix the problem yourself. But there comes a time when human effort runs out, when the answers don't come, when the strategies don't work. And in that moment you realize something holy. You were never meant to carry the weight of tomorrow on your shoulder. You were created for dependence, not domination. You were created for trust, not tension. This doesn't mean we sit passively doing nothing, waiting for God to drop everything into our laps. No, letting God lead doesn't mean inactivity. It means surrender. It means obeying when he speaks, even when it's hard. It means walking through doors, even when you're scared. It means being still when he says, wait, and moving when he says, go. There's a rhythm to grace, a flow to trust. It's not forced, it's not frantic, it's faithful. Do you remember the story of Abraham? God called him to leave everything he knew, his land, his family, his comfort zone, and go to a place he had never seen. There was no map, no itinerary, just a promise. I will show you. That's all Abraham had, and yet he went. He trusted. And through his obedience, God birthed a nation. What if Abraham had stayed where it was safe? What if he had refused to move without more details? He would have missed the miracle. There are miracles on the other side of your surrender, but you have to be willing to follow even when it feels uncomfortable. You have to walk even when you don't have all the answers. You have to trust that when God says go, He already knows where you're going. He's already prepared the way. He's already made provision in the desert, strength for the journey, manna for each morning. And yes, there will be detours, there will be moments when you feel lost. But don't mistake delay for denial. Don't confuse silence for absence. Sometimes God is working behind the scenes in ways you can't yet see. He's setting things in motion. He's aligning hearts. He's preparing the ground for what's to come. Your job is not to figure it out. Your job is to follow. Some of you are holding on to pain not because you want to, but because you're afraid to let go. You've built your identity around the wound, around what happened, around the rejection, the betrayal, the failure. And God is gently whispering to you now, give it to me. Let me lead you out of that place. Let me show you that your story isn't over. He wants to bring healing. But healing begins with surrender. Healing begins when you release the offense, the fear, the self-protection, and let Him lead you into freedom. God leads us not just in the public victories, but in the private battles, when no one else sees, when no one understands. He's there, leading you in the night hours, leading you through the tears, leading you through the questions. Even when you don't recognize His hand, you can trust His heart. And how does He lead? Not with a whip, not with pressure, but with love, with kindness, with patience. Like a good shepherd who calls his sheep by name, He knows you, He knows your weaknesses, your patterns, your wounds, and still He calls you, not because of who you are, but because of who He is. Letting God lead you means you start to live by faith, not by sight. You stop measuring His goodness by your circumstances. You stop needing everything to go right in order to believe He's with you. You start to walk in the confidence that says, even if I don't see the way, I know the one who is the way. You start to rest in the truth that you are not alone, not for a second, not for a heartbeat. And don't be surprised if the path God leads you on doesn't look like what you imagined. His ways are higher, His thoughts are deeper. Sometimes He leads you through the wilderness to prepare you for the promise. Sometimes He allows the storm to teach you to walk on water. Sometimes He breaks what you built because He's building something better. And through it all, He never loses control. The enemy will try to fill your mind with lies. You're not going to make it. God has forgotten you. You're all alone. But you must answer with truth. You must declare, no, my God is with me. He has plans for me, plans to prosper me and not to harm me, plans to give me a hope and a future. He has begun a good work in me, and He will be faithful to complete it. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. You can pick up the worry, or you can pick up the Word. You can live in anxiety, or you can live in assurance. You can carry the burden, or you can cast it on the one who cares for you. This isn't a one-time decision. It's daily, sometimes hourly, and it's worth it every time. Because when you let God lead, you start to live differently. You start to see with spiritual eyes. You begin to notice His fingerprints in the small things, the way He brings the right person into your life at the right time, the way He opens one door and closes another for your protection, the way He gives you strength when you thought you had none left, the way peace comes when it shouldn't, the way joy rises from ashes. This is the life of trust. It's not perfect, it's not always easy, but it's beautiful. Because it's real, it's grounded, it's rooted in the one who does not change. Everything else in life will shift. People will come and go. Seasons will rise and fall. But God is the same, yesterday, today, and forever. You can trust Him, you can lean on Him, you can follow Him all the way home. So when the fear comes, and it will, don't try to fight it alone. Take it to the Lord. When the doubt creeps in, and it will, don't entertain it. Remind yourself of what He's already done. When the path seems too dark, and sometimes it will, take one small step of faith, and another, and another. That's how He leads us, step by step, grace by grace. Let God be your shepherd. Let Him guide your steps. Let Him restore your soul. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to trust the one who already does. And as you let Him lead, you'll begin to realize something powerful. Peace is not found in the absence of trouble. It's found in the presence of God. And He is here, right now, closer than your breath, ready to carry you, ready to guide you, ready to do more than you could ask or imagine. Just let go and let Him lead. There's something remarkable that happens when a soul finally yields. When a heart weary from trying, striving, and straining finally says, God, I can't do this anymore, not in my strength. That moment, though it feels like weakness, is the gateway to real strength. That surrender, though it feels like loss, is the beginning of true gain. Because that is when the power of God begins to flow, not into your polished plans, not into your careful blueprints, but into your open hands. And I believe that's what God is waiting for, not perfection, not performance, just permission. He won't force His way in. He waits for you to say, lead me, Lord. I'm tired of leading myself. I've tried to be in charge, and all it's brought me is fear, pressure, and confusion. I need you. That's the moment the burden starts to lift. That's the moment His peace begins to settle over your chaos. And that's the moment you stop carrying what only God can carry. Sometimes we don't even realize how much we've been trying to hold on to until we start to let go. You may have been carrying silent burdens, questions you don't speak out loud, expectations no one else knows you've placed on yourself, timelines you've silently created in your mind. You thought you had to hold it all together. You thought you had to keep smiling, keep pushing, keep pretending that everything was under control. But deep down, you're tired. Deep down, your soul is aching for rest. And that's what Jesus offers. Not just rest for your body, but rest for your soul. He said, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. What a promise! Not just a nap, not just a break, but real, lasting rest. Rest that quiets the noise, rest that silences the lies, rest that fills the empty places. He's not just asking you to follow Him in the big decisions. He's inviting you to trust Him with the unseen corners of your life. You may wonder, how do I know I can trust Him? Look at the cross. Look at what He gave for you. He didn't withhold His only Son. He didn't turn away when the nails pierced His hands. He didn't stop the plan when it became painful. He endured it all for you, so that you could know that you are loved fully and forever. If He gave everything to rescue your soul, why would He not also lead you tenderly through every step of your life? Sometimes we mistake delay for denial, but just because God hasn't moved yet doesn't mean He isn't moving. Just because the door hasn't opened doesn't mean He isn't preparing the way. Sometimes He's working on things in you before He works through you. Sometimes He's stripping away what you thought you needed to show you what you truly need. Trusting God doesn't always look like soaring. Sometimes it looks like staying. Sometimes it looks like waiting when everything in you wants to run. Sometimes it means walking away from the good so He can lead you to the best. And when you're in those in-between seasons, between the promise and the fulfillment, between the prayer and the answer, those are the places where trust is refined. That's where faith grows deeper roots. That's where you stop needing to know all the answers and start needing more of Him. And isn't that the goal? Not just to get where you're going, but to know who walks beside you on the journey. He knows the way, He is the way, and He never leads without purpose. Every step, even the detours, are woven into a divine plan. You may think you've taken a wrong turn, but God has a way of using every path, even the broken ones, to bring you right where you need to be. He's not looking at your life and thinking, oops, I didn't see that coming. He sees the whole picture. He sees the pain, the confusion, the loss, and he still says, "Follow me." There's safety in his leadership. You may not always understand it, but you can trust it. You may not see the full view, but you can take the next step. Because he doesn't need you to be the hero of the story. He is the author and the finisher. He started it, and he will complete it. All he asks is that you trust him in the middle. Some of you are walking through a fire right now, and maybe you're thinking, if God is leading me, why is it still so hard? But let me remind you, he never promised an easy path. He promised his presence. He never said the waters wouldn't rise, but he said they wouldn't sweep over you. He never said the flames wouldn't come, but he said they wouldn't consume you. He doesn't remove every obstacle, but he walks with you through them. And sometimes it's in the fire that you see him most clearly. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood in the flames, they didn't walk out alone. A fourth man was in the fire with them, one who looked like the Son of God. That's what happens when you trust him. He doesn't always pull you out immediately, but he always steps in with you, and his presence changes everything. You may feel like you're surrounded right now by pressure, by doubt, by fear, but you're not defeated, because the one who surrounds you is greater than whatever surrounds your situation. The one who leads you has already conquered the grave. He's not leading you toward death. He's leading you toward life. And that means even when it feels like everything is falling apart, he's holding it all together. The world will try to offer you a counterfeit peace, temporary fixes, shallow comforts, but they don't last. They don't satisfy. Only God can fill the deep places. Only his peace remains when the storm hits. Only his presence anchors your soul. And that's why you don't need to worry. Not because your situation is simple, not because your future is all mapped out, but because your God is faithful. He doesn't change, he doesn't waver, he doesn't abandon his children. You can lay your head down at night knowing that while you sleep, he watches over you. You can face tomorrow knowing that he's already in it. You can walk forward without fear because he's leading the way. So keep your eyes on him. Don't get distracted by the noise. Don't let worry steal your joy. Don't let fear steal your future. Keep your eyes fixed on the one who called you. Keep walking even when the road is rough. Keep trusting even when it's dark. Keep surrendering even when it hurts, because the one who called you is faithful, and he will lead you all the way. And when you look back one day, you'll see it so clearly. You'll see how he was guiding you when you didn't even know it. You'll see how he was working in the waiting. You'll see how every step, every turn, every delay had a purpose. You'll see his fingerprints all over your story. And you'll say, "Thank God I let go. Thank God I let him lead." You'll realize that it wasn't your effort that carried you. It was his grace. It wasn't your strength that sustained you. It was his spirit. It wasn't your plans that succeeded. It was his faithfulness that never failed. And it all began when you stopped worrying and let God lead. Sometimes we think surrender is the end, but in God's hands, surrender is the beginning. The moment you release control is the moment you start to see clearly. Not because the fog lifts all at once, but because your heart shifts. You stop asking God to follow your plans, and you start asking to follow his. And something amazing happens when that shift takes place. Your soul starts to breathe again. Your burden gets lighter, your steps feel steadier. You begin to live from a place of peace rather than pressure. So many of us carry silent expectations, how things should go, when they should happen, who should stay in our lives, and what success should look like. And when life doesn't match that mental picture, we start to panic. We assume something's wrong. We assume God has forgotten us. But what if God is saving you from a version of life that's smaller than what he had in mind? What if his no is really a setup for a better yes? What if the doors that didn't open were his way of protecting you from what you couldn't yet see? This is the mystery of trust. It doesn't always make sense in the moment. It requires patience. It calls for humility. It demands that we acknowledge God as the author, not just the helper. Too often we treat God like an assistant. We want Him to help us achieve our vision, accomplish our dreams, fix our problems. But He is not our assistant, He is our Lord. And when we truly let Him lead, we stop building our little kingdoms and start living for something eternal. It takes courage to trust a God you cannot see, but it also takes faith to recognize that He sees the whole picture. You see a piece, He sees the masterpiece. You see the moment, He sees the meaning. You see the obstacle, He sees the opportunity. So when He says wait, it's not punishment, it's preparation. When He says not yet, it's not rejection, it's protection. When He closes a door, it's not because He's unkind, it's because He's leading you toward the one He ordained. Letting God lead means embracing His timing, not just His promises. It means believing He's good even when the path feels hard. It means trusting that the hand that holds the universe also holds your heart. And if He's holding your heart, you don't need to fear what's next. You don't need to wake up every morning weighed down by what might happen. You can walk into each day with confidence, knowing that your life is in the hands of the one who made you. It's not just about the big moments either. It's about the daily decisions. It's about choosing prayer over panic. It's about giving thanks when things don't go your way. It's about asking God what He wants to do in you, not just around you. You begin to realize that following Jesus isn't just about destination. It's about transformation. It's about becoming more like Him as you walk with Him. And that transformation often comes in the waiting, in the wondering, in the wilderness. We don't like the wilderness. It feels dry, slow, painful. But the wilderness is where God trains His people. It's where He burns away the pride. It's where He teaches dependence. It's where He becomes not just a concept, but your daily bread. It's where you stop looking for shortcuts and start listening for His voice. Don't despise the process. Don't rush what God is shaping in you. The same God who parts the sea is the one who leads step by step. And sometimes He lets you walk through things so that when you come out, you're not just delivered, you're different. You're deeper. You're stronger. You're no longer trying to control everything because now you know who's in control. This kind of trust, this radical surrendered trust, doesn't come from a sermon. It comes from walking with God. It's built in the moments when you had nothing else to hold on to but His Word. It's formed in the valleys, not just the victories. It's forged in the fire, not just the comfort. And once you taste it, you never want to go back to the old way of living, gripping everything tightly, worrying about what's next, chasing after things that can't satisfy. Letting God lead brings you to a different rhythm. It's slower than the world's pace, but it's deeper, it's steadier. It doesn't panic when things go wrong. It listens before it speaks. It worships even when it hurts. It rejoices even when it waits. It doesn't need to compete or compare because it's grounded in the love of the Father. It knows that everything you need flows from Him. Not from people, not from achievements, not from success, but from Him. And when you walk in that rhythm, your perspective changes. You stop asking, what can I get? And you start asking, who can I become? You stop measuring your life by outcomes and start measuring it by obedience. You stop needing a life that looks impressive and start desiring a heart that's fully surrendered. God is not looking for polished people. He's looking for available people. People who will say yes before they see the whole picture. People who will go where He sends them. People who will trust His heart even when they don't understand His hand. People who will say, God, I don't need to lead anymore. I just want to follow You. And friend, when you live that way, the pressure lifts. Because now you're no longer trying to prove yourself. You're no longer trying to earn love that was already given. You're no longer trying to hold up your world. You're letting Him hold you. And He's never dropped anyone who trusted in Him, not once. He's faithful to the end. So let your heart rest in that today. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to have the perfect plan. You just have to trust the one who does. He's not in a rush. He's not overwhelmed. He's not unsure about your future. He is your shepherd. He is your refuge. He is your peace. And He's already ahead of you, making a way, opening doors, healing wounds, restoring what was broken, rewriting stories. He's doing more than you can see, more than you can imagine, more than you even know to pray for. So keep showing up, keep trusting, keep surrendering, because the life that God leads is the only life worth living. One step at a time, one prayer at a time, one moment of surrender at a time. And in the end, you'll look back not with regret, not with fear, but with awe. And you'll say, God, you were with me the whole way. You led me better than I ever could have led myself. And that is the testimony of a life fully surrendered. Not one without trouble, but one with peace. Not one without questions, but one with unshakable trust. Not one without storms, but one where the anchor held. Because the one who leads never fails. And when the world pulls you in every direction, telling you to take control, to hustle harder, to figure it all out by your own might, there's a quiet whisper calling you back, calling you home, a whisper that says, be still and know that I am God. Not just know about Him, not just believe He exists, but know Him personally, intimately, truly, to know His character, His faithfulness, His goodness. That kind of knowing silences the chaos. That kind of knowing drives out fear. That kind of knowing gives you the confidence to take your hands off the wheel and let Him lead. You begin to realize that trust is not passive, it's powerful. It's not weakness, it's warfare. It's choosing to believe God's truth over the lies screaming in your mind. It's choosing to stand still when everything in you wants to run back to what's familiar. It's choosing to praise when nothing makes sense, because praise is not based on circumstances. It's based on who God is, and He doesn't change. Some of you have been carrying disappointment like a second skin. Prayers you've prayed that haven't been answered, at least not in the way you hoped. Doors that closed, relationships that ended, loss that left you with unanswered questions. And the enemy wants to use that pain to make you doubt the goodness of God. He wants to whisper that if God really loved you, things would have gone differently. But friend, let me tell you, God's love for you is not proven by the presence of easy days. It's proven by the cross. And nothing in your life, no setback, no loss, no unanswered question, can undo what He did for you on that hill called Calvary. He knows what He's doing, even when it doesn't look like it. Sometimes God's greatest gifts come wrapped in trials. Sometimes the very thing you wish He'd take away is the thing He's using to bring you closer to His heart. And if you stay close, if you keep walking, keep trusting, keep letting Him lead, you'll see it. You'll see how the detour wasn't a delay, but a divine direction. You'll see how the heartbreak wasn't the end, but a door to deeper healing. You'll see how the silence wasn't absence, but an invitation to press in closer. Because when God leads, He leads with purpose. He doesn't waste your pain. He doesn't overlook your tears. He catches every one. He hears every groan that words can't express. And even when you can't feel Him, He's working. Even when you can't see the outcome, He's weaving something eternal. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. And you are not walking alone. When you begin to truly let God lead, you start to see the difference between pressure and purpose. The world says, prove yourself. God says, let me be your proof. The world says, be strong. God says, my strength is made perfect in your weakness. The world says, figure it out. God says, lean not on your own understanding. There is a deep rest in following God, even in the middle of movement. Because your soul no longer depends on external things to feel secure. You are grounded in something unshakable. But make no mistake, letting God lead doesn't mean life will always be simple. There will still be storms. There will still be valleys. There will still be moments that test everything you believe. But what changes is how you face them. You stop reacting from fear and start responding from faith. You stop living for approval and start walking in identity. You stop clinging to outcomes and start resting in obedience. There's power in obedience, even when it's quiet, even when it's not seen by others, even when it doesn't feel significant. When you let God lead, no step is wasted, no prayer is unheard, no act of faith is small. He sees it all, and He honors those who follow Him with a pure heart. It might mean taking a path that looks different from the crowd. It might mean letting go of good things so you can grab hold of God things. It might mean choosing forgiveness over bitterness, faith over fear, patience over pressure. But when you let Him lead, you begin to realize that His path leads to life. Not just eternal life, but abundant life right here, right now. A life full of peace that doesn't make sense, joy that runs deeper than circumstances, and love that never runs out. You begin to carry a quiet confidence, not in yourself, but in your Savior. People around you will wonder how you stay calm in the chaos, how you keep your joy when things fall apart, how you move forward without a plan B. And you'll be able to say, it's not me, it's the one who leads me. Because now your life becomes a testimony, not of your wisdom, not of your strength, but of His faithfulness. And as He leads you, you begin to see more clearly, not just what He's doing, but who He is. You start to know His voice. You start to sense His direction. You start to recognize His hand in your story. And that intimacy, that nearness, that's the real reward. That's what makes it all worth it. The greatest treasure isn't what He gives, it's who He is. And when you have Him, you have everything. So keep going, keep surrendering, keep letting go of worry, fear, control. You don't have to know the next 10 steps, just take the one He's showing you. You don't have to have all the answers, just trust the one who is the answer. You don't have to strive anymore, just follow, just rest. Just believe that the God who created you, saved you, and called you is able to lead you all the way. And oh, how He will, not with force, but with grace, not with fear, but with love, not with confusion, but with peace. His leadership doesn't enslave, it sets free. His guidance doesn't limit, it enlarges. His ways don't confine, they fulfill. Because when God leads, He leads you not just to the destination, but to your true identity in Him. So even if the road is long, even if the way is hard, even if the path winds through places you didn't expect, keep your eyes on Him. Don't look to the right or to the left. Don't be swayed by noise or distraction. Don't let the world define what success looks like. Let God define your story. Let Him write the pages. Let Him take the pen out of your hand and do what only He can do. Because the moment you stop worrying, the moment you truly let go, that's when your life begins to align with heaven. That's when your heart begins to find real peace. That's when you realize that every moment of surrender is not a loss but a victory. Not a weakness, but the very place where God's strength is made perfect. So lean into Him. Trust Him more today than you did yesterday. Open your hands, lift your heart, and walk forward in faith, knowing the one who goes before you is faithful, powerful, and good. Let Him lead, and you will never be the same. So today, wherever you are, whatever you're facing, make the decision deep in your heart to stop worrying and let God lead you. Let Him into every corner of your life. Trust Him not just with your Sundays, but with your Mondays, your midnights, your mess. Give Him your plans, your questions, your fears, your future. Let go of the weight you were never meant to carry, and take hold of the peace you were always meant to live in. He is ready to lead you not just through the easy days, but through every valley, every storm, every unknown. And if you follow Him, if you truly surrender, you'll find something greater than control. You'll find freedom. You'll find peace. You'll find purpose. Because the safest, strongest, most beautiful place you could ever be is right in the center of God's will. Let Him lead you, and you will never be lost.